The war of words over Taiwan is escalating. China has issued a warning it will crush any foreign attempt to interfere. This after Japan announced plans to deploy missiles near the island. On Sunday, Japan's defense minister announced that Tokyo was moving forward with plans to deploy a missile system on Yonaguni, the country's westernmost island located 110 kilometers off Taiwanese east coast. China has blasted the announcement, describing Japan's plan as a deliberate attempt to create regional tension and provoke military confrontation. 2 days later, it has issued a sterner warning. Take a listen.
Taiwan is China's Taiwan. We will never allow external forces to interfere in China's Taiwan region, and we will never allow Japanese militarism to stage a comeback. We have a firm will, strong determination, and a strong ability to defend our national sovereignty and territorial integrity and crush all plots of external interference.
The recent war of words has erupted after remarks by Japan's prime minister, who suggested that Tokyo could intervene militarily in any Chinese attack against Taiwan. But she has also said that Japan hopes to build a better and comprehensive relationship with China.
Japan has always been open to a constructive dialogue with China. Therefore, it is my responsibility to maximum our national interest and build an even better, comprehensive relationship through dialogue from now on.
The latest comments came a day after she received a phone call from the U.S. President, Donald Trump. Trump had earlier dialed Chinese President Xi Jinping. According to Chinese Foreign Ministry, Taiwan featured prominently during Xi's call with President Trump. Xi told Trump that Taiwan's return was an integral part of the post-war international order. According to China's Foreign Ministry, Trump told Xi during the call that the U.S. understands how important the Taiwan question is to China. However, the issue of Taiwan found no mention in his Truth Social post on his discussions with Xi. It just praised extremely strong U.S.-China relations. This has raised speculation over Washington's support for Taiwan. However, Taiwan's president says that ties with the U.S. are, quote-unquote, rock solid.
Since President Trump assumed his second term in office, Taiwan's cooperation with the United States has not been interrupted, stopped, or diminished, but has continued to strengthen. So, we are confident in the future relationship between Taiwan and the United States because it will benefit the common interests of Taiwan and the United States, as well as the overall interests of the region.
Lai Ching-te has claimed that China is speeding up its military preparations to take the island by force. He has also proposed $40 billion in additional defense spending over 8 years. He said the military aimed to have a high level of joint combat readiness against China by 2027, which U.S. officials had previously cited as a possible timeline for a Chinese attack on the island. Joining us live on the broadcast is Ross Darrell Feingold, who is a political analyst joining us from Taiwan. Welcome to Wion, and thank you so much for joining us. China's rhetoric has clearly intensified, especially after Japan's comments and also its missile deployment. From where you sit and from your vantage point, how does Taiwan view all of this? Is this something more dangerous, or is it still just posturing?
Certainly it's dangerous. The threat of a Chinese military invasion is real. China doesn't hide that fact. They repeatedly threaten to use force to take over Taiwan if Taiwan doesn't willingly agree to unification. And we know that the Chinese military prepares for that possibility, both through continued and increasing investments in its military capabilities, regular exercises that in recent years have grown in their complexity by bringing together different parts of China's armed forces. So the threat is very real, and the political and military leaders, and frankly, other sectors of Taiwan society, such as the corporate world or people in general, they need to take that threat extremely seriously and prepare accordingly, whether that's through military service or defense budgets. There's lots of issues that sort of interfere with the focus, where I think the focus should be on training the military and investing in the military. But the comments from Japan's prime minister that was more of a political issue than a defense issue. What exactly she meant? Did she mean that Japan would send troops to defend Taiwan? Well, it wasn't really clear. And actually today, on Wednesday, Asia time, she kind of walked back a bit her remarks, because she said, well, we only have unofficial relations with Taiwan, and it's not for Japan to say what Taiwan's ultimate legal status is. And then the Trump call with Xi Jinping, where, as you mentioned, he didn't refer to Taiwan in his Truth Social post, but Xi Jinping and China did refer to Taiwan as being part of the conversation. So there's a lot of political stuff that interferes with where the focus should be. And for Taiwan to stay safe and maintain its autonomy, the focus really needs to be on doing what's necessary to defend Taiwan.
And Ross, do you think that Taiwan is shaping its strategic planning somewhat differently because of these mixed messages that's coming in from Washington, although the U.S. does maintain strategic ambiguity? But as you mentioned, on the one hand, the Chinese come out and say that Taiwan was predominantly the focus of the conversation. President Trump really doesn't talk about the issue of Taiwan. I know it's similar to previous administrations, but is this affecting how Taiwan is preparing itself?
Yeah, absolutely, because Taiwan gets so many different opinions from different people and different governments and different politicians. For example, there's a constant stream of parliamentarians from different countries around the world, whether the U.S. Congress, European parliaments, Japanese parliamentarians, Australia, constantly visiting Taiwan and expressing support for Taiwan, but represent their governments necessarily. So what the actual government will do, or its approach to Taiwan, is really not for these parliamentarians to say. There's think tank and scholar experts around the world, whether in Washington, D.C., European capitals, Tokyo, Singapore, who are constantly producing written materials about what Taiwan should do as far as its defense or its foreign relations or its relations with China. And sometimes I think the government here is a bit confused about who they should be listening to in that regard. Even when it comes to defense and what Taiwan's priority should be, it often changes rather quickly. I mean, the government here would deny that, but the reality is sometimes they seem to be preparing for a ground war on Taiwan, which basically means they're conceding the fact that China would have a successful amphibious invasion and actually be able to put troops on shore. And Taiwan has made large purchases, such as over 100 advanced tanks from the United States within the last few years, which cost over $1 billion. Other times, Taiwan talks about making sure that the battle remains at sea and in the air. But then even in that regard, there's debate
Right.
and changing focuses on what the spending priorities should be, whether it should be on drones or ships or aircraft. So Taiwan does get pulled
Right.
in different directions, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's such a valid point. Thank you so much for your time and your company and your thorough analysis. I look forward to speaking to you again very soon.
Thank you.